Hey everyone, welcome to another YouTube painting process video. This time around I'll be showing you the time lapse for my Celeste piece from Deadlock. And as usual, I'll be going over a topic of discussion when it comes to art. This time around, it's fairly straightforward. It's the idea of letting go of trying to make perfect masterpieces every time you draw. This is quite often one of the biggest mental blocks that a lot of people have, and again with the artist block, it's something that a lot of people struggle with when creating art. Your expectations for yourself is rather high when you are theorizing what you are going to draw. Now, I will explain a little bit more to substantiate this idea. If you're listening to this, you probably went to school or is going to school, and our system of education is marks based. After all, we have report cards and we're doing assignments and we get feedback in a number sense. So you're getting a 0%, I guess, to 100% based on how you did. Knowing this, we are conditioned to strive for perfection. Obviously, we want to hit 100% every single time, and wherever we land, that's going to be whatever. And we often take that and start using that idea as we get into the industry and just working in general. As you would imagine, that's really not going to work. The reality is that there's going to be a lot of factors when it comes to what you're doing. If you're striving for perfection every single task that you're given, you're going to go insane. I mean this quite sincerely, and I know it sounds bad since you might be somebody like a client of mine who's listening to this, but the reality is that very rarely do you ever hit 100% every single time. Even if you try your damnedest to get that, you're not going to reach that masterpiece every time you do something. How ridiculous would it be if a car mechanic is just doing a perfect job every single time? They're going well beyond the expectations of what they have to fix just for the same pay. The reality is, when it comes to professional work, you have to mind your expectations and be realistic. This is something that I had to break myself from doing as well, because as an Asian person, you would imagine that my parents were pushing me nonstop to get all the A+ in report cards. And it felt really bad when I got a B. But when it comes to actual work, a lot of times you just want to do a good enough job for the task at hand. Because in reality, even if you tried your hardest, you don't sleep, you have all these research and ideas, you're unlikely to make an artwork that is truly going to be a masterpiece every single time. And surely you don't want to delay a deadline because you're constantly redoing and redoing things to perfection. This is quite literally a very big common misconception, because I know that a lot of people, including myself, idolize certain professionals. From the outside, we think of every single artwork of theirs as masterpieces. But if you ever ask an actual professional artist on what they think about their work, chances are they're gonna say, yeah, I could have done better here, I could have done better here, and I could have done better here. There is always going to be something to strive for, but paralyzing yourself because something isn't perfect isn't a good idea either. So what is a good idea when it comes to being a professional? It's simple. You are raising your skill so that your average is very good. and getting better. If we understand that nothing we ever make is likely to be a masterpiece, then we're going to assume that whatever we make is going to be hovering around the average of what we're going to be creating. In essence, if you want to be consistent as a professional, you have to ensure that even at your worst, you're still at a certain level that is presentable for your clients and for the audience. I'm not here to humble brag or toot my own horn, but the reality is if I was half asleep, drunk, and concussed, I would still be able to draw something that is somewhat competent enough to present. Again, it's not going to be a masterpiece, but it's going to be enough. And that's the mark of a professional worker. Knowing where you're at and what your average is very, very important when it comes to creating consistent professional work. I'm not telling you to make horrible artwork for your clients, but be mindful of just how much effort you're putting in and whether it's necessary for the task at hand. I've mentioned in other videos that trying too hard is also not a good thing because art is a flow state. And at least in my opinion and how I work, if I try too hard to make a masterpiece, I ironically make something worse because I'll rather be relaxed and get into a flow state and whatever happens, happens. And weirdly enough, it creates something that is average or at least above average when I get into that flow state. Whereas if you're trying so desperately hard to be perfect, you risk being too tight with your work. So don't fall into that trap. And that's not to mention that trying to make a masterpiece implies that you're going to spend way more time than you can, especially when it comes to professional work. You have deadlines, so don't get too caught up with getting everything right. Again, if you look at any professional work, chances are they're not going to be a masterpiece deemed by the artist. We may think it's great, but they're just doing their consistent average work. And perhaps some things are better than others, but again, that comes with just luck a lot of times. I don't care who you bring up in the world, William Bouguereau, Rembrandt, and such, their work has a range of between pretty average to masterpieces, even for them. So what is it to expect ourselves to be making masterpieces when even the best master artists throughout history isn't churning out the best of the best every single time? Now, granted, their average is very good because they're masters for a reason, but you know what I mean. To conclude, you would imagine that all of the stuff that I work on and show you in this fan art video processes, they're not going to be work that I'm really trying 110% to get perfect. Ultimately for these, because I'm doing these basically weekly on my social media, I don't really have the time or luxury to be able to create these 900-hour paintings. And surely putting that much time on a piece of fan art is a little bit much. And of course, because I am working on a comic at this point, you would imagine putting everything on the line for each and every single page wouldn't be very efficient either. Again, trust your averages, work to improve your average so that you will be consistent without having to put so much effort just to have a masterpiece every single time. Anyways, thank you for watching. This is the final artwork for Celeste from Deadlock. As usual, like this video, subscribe to my channel for more. Any support helps. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.